Welcome to the 8th module for the Global DARE Foundation Patient Collaborator Training Series. My name is Mousumi Bose, and I will be your narrator throughout these training modules to help you become an active patient collaborator in ongoing and upcoming research for adult refsum disease. In this module, we'll be building a foundation for understanding the basics of adult refsum disease as a peroxisomal disorder. We'll start by first reviewing the role of the peroxisome in the cell, and we'll let that segue into the different types of peroxisomal disorders and how adult refsum disease fits within this group. From there, we'll focus on the role of phytanic acid in adult refsum disease. We'll discuss what phytanic acid is, where it comes from in the diet, and why its buildup can impact the body. Finally, we'll highlight future research directions in adult refsum disease and finish by summarizing the key takeaways in this module and previewing what's upcoming in the next modules. Before we talk about the specifics of adult refsum disease, I want to start by talking a little bit about what peroxisomes are within the context of the human cell. So the human body is made up of roughly 30 trillion cells. And while different cells can have very different jobs in the body, like muscle cells, skin cells, or nerve cells, most of them share the same key internal structures called organelles. These organelles include important parts like the nucleus and the mitochondria, which help the cell function and stay alive. And understanding these common cell structures really sets the foundation for learning about where peroxisomes fit in and why they matter within the cell. So peroxisomes are small spherical structures that are found inside all human cells. They're surrounded by a single membrane, and even though they're quite tiny, they play a huge role in keeping the body functioning properly. Peroxisomes are responsible for 50 to 75 important biochemical reactions in the body. For example, peroxisomes help support the production of a substance called bile in the liver, which is necessary for fat digestion. They also contribute to making parts of the myelin sheath, which helps protect nerve cells in the brain and supports brain function. Another key job of peroxisomes is breaking down hydrogen peroxide, a potentially harmful substance that cells produce, helping protect the body from damage. So when peroxisomes aren't functioning properly in the cell, that dysfunction is usually attributed to a peroxisomal disorder. These peroxisomal disorders generally fall into two main categories. The first are the peroxisome biogenesis disorders, which involve problems with how the peroxisomes are formed. Examples of peroxisome biogenesis disorders include Zellweger spectrum disorder and rhizomelic chondrodysplasia punctata, or RCDP. The second category of peroxisomal disorders include the single enzyme or protein deficiencies, where the peroxisome is formed properly, but a specific enzyme or protein needed for key metabolic functions within the peroxisome is missing or not working correctly. Examples of single enzyme or protein deficiencies include X-linked adrenoleukodystrophy, acyl-CoA oxidase deficiency, D-bifunctional protein deficiency, 3-methyl-CoA racemase deficiency, and adult refsum disease. So as I said before, adult refsum disease is a single enzyme deficiency disorder. This is a rare genetic condition that is inherited in an autosomal recessive pattern, which means that both parents need to be carriers for this disease to give a child a 1 in 4 chance of inheriting adult refsum disease. Adult refsum disease affects about 1 in 1 million people worldwide, and it is most commonly caused by changes in the gene that contains the instructions on how to make the peroxisomal enzyme phytanyl-CoA hydroxylase, which helps the body break down a molecule called phytanic acid. Phytanic acid is a type of fat that is found exclusively in the diet. And when this phytanyl-CoA hydroxylase enzyme is not made or doesn't work properly, phytanic acid builds up in the body over time, and it's this buildup which is what leads to many of the symptoms seen in adult refsum disease. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms of adult refsum disease. So these symptoms typically begin around age 15 or so, as phytanic acid needs to build up in the body over time before we start seeing symptoms. These symptoms of adult refsum disease can affect multiple organ systems in the body. Common symptoms in adult refsum disease include vision problems caused by retinitis pigmentosa, a loss of smell, and nerve-related symptoms like numbness, tingling, or pain. Many individuals with adult refsum disease also experience hearing loss and balance difficulties known as ataxia. Skin changes such as dry, scaly skin called ichthyosis may also occur as well. And some people diagnosed with adult refsum disease may also develop skeletal differences, including shortened fingers or toes, and conditions like hammer toe. So let's talk a little bit about phytanic acid. Phytanic acid is a type of branched chain fatty acid that the human body can't make on its own. So what that means is that if phytanic acid is present in our body, it's probably coming from our diet. Phytanic acid is actually oftentimes a breakdown product of a molecule called chlorophyll, which you may know is found in plants. Although it should be known that humans generally can't make phytanic acid even if foods that are containing chlorophyll are eaten. When foods containing phytanic acid are eaten, it is normally processed and broken down inside of the peroxisome. In adult refsum disease, where that phytanyl-CoA hydroxylase enzyme that breaks down phytanic acid is not present or is not working properly, phytanic acid builds up in the blood and in the tissues and then can become toxic, which then contributes to its symptoms. So as I said earlier, phytanic acid is found in the body entirely through what we eat. So it mainly comes from the milk and the meat of ruminant animals like cows, sheep, goats, deer, and other grazing animals. This happens because these animals consume chlorophyll from plants, and during digestion, chlorophyll is broken down into a molecule called phytol, which is then converted into phytanic acid. That phytanic acid becomes stored in these animals' tissues and in their milk, meaning that it can enter the human diet when we consume foods like dairy and meats from these animals. It should be noted that dairy and these meat products are not the only foods that contain phytanic acid. Here we have a visual of other foods that contain phytanic acids in addition to meats and dairy products. This red stop box at the bottom of the slide emphasizes foods like kale and salmon that contain high amounts of phytanic acid. So some fish can also make and store phytanic acid, similar to ruminant animals. And although we can't process chlorophyll from plants into phytanic acid, there is a growing body of evidence that suggests that phytol, which is that intermediate I described of chlorophyll before it gets converted into phytanic acid, may have the ability to convert into phytanic acid in the human body. As a result, leafy greens that contain phytol, such as kale, are considered restricted foods in adult refsum disease. Additionally, and very interestingly, peanuts are also a high source of phytol, which can also convert into phytanic acid in the body. In contrast, the green Go box that is shown here at the top of this slide highlights the foods that are low in phytanic acid, such as chicken, avocado, sweet potatoes, and cashews. This orange caution box features foods with a moderate level of phytanic acid, such as non-fat yogurts, bacon, broccoli, as well as pecans. So phytanic acid can be present in the bloodstream and in the tissues of patients with adult refsum disease. But oftentimes, depending on an individual's metabolic state, phytanic acid can move out of the bloodstream and be stored as part of the body's fat. And when phytanic acid is stored as part of our body fat and not circulating in the blood, it doesn't contribute as much to the acute adult refsum disease symptoms. However, when that fat tissue is mobilized and releases phytanic acid into the bloodstream, that can cause these acute symptoms of adult refsum disease. So it's important to understand what are the things that cause fat mobilization in adult refsum disease. Well, periods of fasting or not eating enough calories can cause fat mobilization and fat burning. Exercise, particularly those targeting fat burning, can also release phytanic acid into the blood. Additionally, infections, surgery, or other physical stressors can trigger fat burning in the body and can all contribute to the worsening of symptoms in adult refsum disease, highlighting the importance of carefully managing physical activity as well as these other metabolic stressors in adult refsum disease management. So based on this information, managing adult refsum disease comes with several challenges. First, there are limited treatment options. A low phytanic acid diet is really the primary management approach. And for some refsum patients, even with a low phytanic acid diet, this will still result in high blood phytanic acid levels with related symptoms. And these limited treatment options are available only to patients that have been properly tested and diagnosed with adult refsum disease. And diagnosis of adult refsum disease can often be a long journey, usually with no testing available until symptoms of adult refsum disease are observed. And in some cases, this can take decades. Once diagnostic testing is endorsed, this can also be a multi-step process, relying on both biochemical testing of phytanic acid levels in the blood, as well as genetic testing for the genes that cause adult refsum disease. Unfortunately, adult refsum disease cannot currently be detected through newborn screening, which really makes early intervention for adult refsum disease difficult. So these challenges in the current management of adult refsum disease really provides the foundation for why more research in adult refsum disease is very necessary to improve our understanding and the management of this disease, as well as diagnose the disease earlier. Key goals in research include developing animal models that accurately mimic adult refsum disease as seen in humans, studying how phytol in the diet influences phytanic acid levels in the body and symptom progression, as well as looking at how appropriate exercise can minimize the symptoms in adult refsum disease, exploring alternative pathways for the breakdown of phytanic acid in the body, and identifying new biomarkers that could enable earlier detection, potentially even in newborns. So to sum up what we have covered here in this module, Adult Refsum Disease is a rare peroxisomal disorder caused by impaired breakdown of phytanic acid, a branched chain fatty acid that is found in the diet. This accumulation of phytanic acid affects multiple body systems, leading to significant symptoms. Early diagnosis and careful dietary management of adult refsum disease can help slow disease progression, but many challenges remain. Research priorities focus on understanding disease progression, identifying biomarkers for adult refsum, and developing new therapies to improve the quality of life for patients affected by adult refsum disease. So, collaboration between these patients, clinicians, and researchers is crucial to improved outcomes and advancing more targeted treatments for adult refsum disease. Looking ahead, our training series continues with several modules designed to deepen your understanding and engagement in research in adult refsum disease and other rare disease research. Coming up next, we will cover diagnosis and genetic testing of adult refsum disease as well as other rare diseases, along with an understanding of how genetic testing and other types of diagnostic testing can advance research in rare disease. I want to thank you for your time. I encourage you to complete the survey linked to this module. I'm excited to continue guiding you through these upcoming modules, and I'll see you at the next session. For more information or if you have any questions, please contact the Global DARE Foundation.